Hey everybody, welcome back to Miles and Mentors. Today we have an excellent mentor lined up with us, Rob McCutcheon from TAFS Factoring. We're going to learn all about his story and the factoring industry. So stick with us. We have an excellent episode lined up for you right after this on Miles and Mentors.
Welcome to Miles and Mentors, the podcast that humanizes trucking, getting real life advice and insights from logistics professionals from all over the industry. We sit down with those seasoned mentors who have put in the miles, with a mission to pass on the knowledge gained from years in the industry to you. Now buckle up and enjoy the show.
Hey, Rob, welcome to the show. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Fantastic. So I've gotten a chance to see several podcasts with you on them at this point and learn a little bit about the factoring industry. And I want to dive into that with you today. But just first and foremost, a little bit about just who you are and who TAFS is.
Yeah, so like you said, Rob McCutcheon, Vice President for Strategy and Growth here at TAFS. Really my background actually started in the college athletics world.
Okay.
And so I used to work for some Division II schools. I played college athletics, played college soccer, and ended up working in the college athletics world for a long time, really kind of, getting everything ready to go for like my marketing career. My major in college was communications, mass communications. And so we did stuff with video, audio, all that type of stuff, as well as a minor in business and marketing. And so I kind of was somewhere in that range where I wanted to do something in business, somewhere in marketing. Transportation was not even a thought on my mind at that time. But as you know, with this industry, you just kind of see an opportunity. You don't know anything about it. You try to learn as much as you can. And I've been here for 8 years now, and it's been just fantastic. It's a much needed part of the economy, and it's always going to be needed. Any type of logistics, and whether it's you're coordinating the logistics, you're helping them with the financial piece of it, or you're actually hauling the loads. All that stuff plays a hand in it, and it's a kind of a rewarding career to be able to say, I was part of the economy. Making sure that people were fed, have clothes, have, all the things to build buildings, all the things. And so it's a much needed part of the economy, and I really enjoy being a part of it. And I've learned a ton about it in the last, 8 years here, but definitely came from a totally different background before I tried to get into it.
That's fantastic, man. It's funny to hear, you went through that and then didn't have any inkling of going into the logistics industry. What have you grown to appreciate most about the logistics industry since you've kind of reached here?
It's the impact on people. One of my former mentors, when I heard them say, they walk. How did that desk that you're sitting on get here? How did the beams that this building is built from get here? How did the lunch that you just ate get here? Everything literally around them got there from a truck. And whether it's from a truck or from a plane or a train or whatever it is, or a ship, at the end of the day, trucks are still the most needed part of that, because you can't get something to Kansas City, Missouri on a ship. And so even if you land at the airport, you got to put it on a truck in order for it to be delivered to where it needs to be. And so it just helps you kind of feel proud about being that part of the economy. And then the other piece of it is from the factoring side of it, is just helping from a financial perspective, and helping close those gaps. And then as far as small businesses go, everybody probably knows someone that started a small business, but from the trucking perspective, there is a lot of companies that start with one person, and they open their business with their truck, and they have a dream of trying to grow that into something bigger. and have something that they can leave to their family, their loved ones. And so having the part of that American dream is always a big piece too.
Yeah. I think you hit on some really, really vital stuff there, because as we've talked in a few of the past episodes, this is one of those crazy industries that we see so many different business out there that have like an entire office to run what so many of these owner operators are doing all by themselves while being stuck behind the wheel the majority of the time. It's kind of an amazing feat to see how successful some of these guys can be when there's so much riding on their shoulders. Before we dive into that, though, because I really want to understand kind of how factoring dives into that and plays in, but you mentioned on a key point for this show, especially the mentor aspect. How important do you think it is in the logistics industry to surround yourself with mentors?
It's vital. If you don't surround yourself with people who have done this before, or surround yourself with trying to be as educated as you personally can be, the failure rate is just so high. And so making sure that you have people who have done it before, who have gone through a lot of the roadblocks that have happened, and have dealt with, hey, how do I get to this next phase of growing? How does technology play in? How does the financial piece play in? How does the equipment plan? And there's so many things that it takes. And so a lot of people that come into starting their own trucking business know a lot about driving a truck.
Yeah.
They know a lot about the lifeblood of their business, but they've never owned a business before, and they've never made business decisions. And so it's definitely a big piece of the learning curve. And our goal as a factoring company is to help with that piece and be a sounding board, and try to be somebody that can be a consultant when needed, to be able to help somebody get to the next level, or even just providing funds to help somebody overcome a roadblock or get to the next level of growing their business to a second truck or a third truck or a fourth truck.
Sure.
And then same thing whenever you're already a big one, and you have 100 trucks already. There are also all kinds of things that we can do to kind of help in that atmosphere as well. So having a mentor or a consultant or somebody that you can reach out to for answers is vital. And then same thing, there's no one person that knows all the answers. And so have multiple, be able to make sure that you have somebody that's really expert in the financial side, that understands the truck side, understands the logistics piece, the sales piece, the marketing piece. I mean, there's so many pieces to a trucking company, how to build your brand, how to build relationships. Some people are naturals at some of those things, but there's always going to be, if you're looking at yourself honestly, everybody knows that you're going to have weaknesses and you're going to have things that you don't know. And so make sure you go out and do the research, find multiple points of contact that can tell you about the same thing, because no two answers are usually going to be the same.
Those are some fantastic points. I mean, like you said, getting into business just by itself is hurdle after hurdle these days. Getting into something like trucking that is so heavily regulated, that's not necessarily something you just want to wing. Having someone that knows the ropes and can give you that educated answer behind it is always the way to go, especially if you want to be successful and really not get slapped down right from the beginning. That can kind of have some lasting impact if you don't do it correctly. Now, you've kind of gone into the factoring side of it a little bit. For those that may be new to the industry and not really in tune to what that is, can you break down just what is factoring?
Yeah, so factoring is essentially financing the accounts receivable that you have bringing in. The reason it is something that is needed in the industry is trucking is expensive. And so you think about it, all the bills that you have to pay, fixed and variable costs that you have to pay throughout the month, whether it's fuel, your insurance payment, and insurance is a huge one for these guys, and fuels is right there with it. Your truck payment, all the bills that you have to pay, from a technology perspective. There are so many bills, and you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars in bills that you have to pay every month. And then the other side of that is, well, all right, well, if you have thousands of dollars in bills every month, well, what are the what are the ways that you're bringing in dollars to your business.
Right.
And so if you are working with brokers or shippers or whoever it is, all of those companies that you work with have pay terms. And so if you work with a certain broker, they're going to let you know before you work with them that, hey, we usually pay after you bill us in 28 days, or we pay in 35 days, or whatever it is. Everybody has a standard pay term, that they try to work by. And then there's delays in those pay terms. Say if there's issues with paperwork and issues with, a claim that may happen, or all these different types of possibilities that could delay those payments further. If you are doing a load today and the pay term in that is 30 days, by the time it actually gets to you and you put the check into the bank account and it's another day or two before it's reconciled, all that type of stuff, you're talking 32 days that you have to go after dropping that load before you're going to get any paycheck. And so the biggest difference between a person that was a company driver and they got their paycheck every Friday, no matter what, versus somebody that owns their own business is you're the boss. And so the only way you're going to get paid is by working with those brokers and then billing and collecting from those brokers. And so what a factoring company essentially does is, instead of you having to wait those 30 days because you have 30 days worth of bills and things that you have to pay, the factoring company will purchase that invoice from you, and they will bill and collect it for you on the backside, and they'll give you the money right away. So you can help with operating costs and bills and those type of things. And so it has several advantages. They say that, some of the numbers that I've read says that about 70% of trucking companies that are out there use factoring. And the reason that is because pay terms in this industry are anywhere between 30 and 90 days. And so it's just a needed piece of the industry. Not all brokers and shippers can pay quick enough for you to be able to make sure you get your bills. And then the other piece of it that is, you talk about options that you have as a trucking company. One of those other options would be to go to a bank and get you a line of credit. That's just not an option for a lot of us, especially if you're a new business. Banks are much more strict on their lending guidelines than you would be if you're a factoring company. It's a much easier approval process, and you also don't have to go in debt whenever you use factoring. And so there's a lot of advantages to using it, especially in any type of industry that you would have high pay terms. And so it doesn't just work in trucking. There are factoring companies that actually don't work in trucking at all, and they do things with PO financing, staffing, medical, construction, and there's all kinds of different factoring that's out there. It's a pretty common industry when it comes to just helping people increase that cash flow so they can pay the bills they have today, make that payroll, and get those bills paid rather than waiting the full pay term that's out there.
Man, fantastic points. I mean, you're looking at 30 plus days, and then just the cost of trying to put gas in a truck. That's rough. That's rough to really try to float that, and to have that back end to keep, inject that capital into your business when you need it the most really sounds like a huge lifeline. Now, one thing I've read on your guys' website, and you kind of mentioned it there about being kind of trucking business consultants. It sounds like you have a really knowledgeable staff behind that. Besides just the factoring part, how do you guys help in other ways like that?
Yeah, so the advantage that TAFS has had over the years is our sister company is a huge trucking company. And so we've had access to experts in trucking for a long, long time. And we've got also tons and tons of partnerships that we've built over the years with companies that do compliance, insurance, fuel, like all these different types of things. And so what we've tried to do is to be kind of the one-stop shop, because we do factoring only for transportation. And so our goal is to bring a carrier on and them to succeed. And so anything that we can do to provide them more capabilities to succeed, whether it's refer them over to an insurance expert or refer them over to a compliance expert or whatever it may be. We want to be able to have a solution for them, have an answer for them. And so we've got several of them where it's a referral partnership, and then we've also got some things in-house like a fuel card that we've built in to the factoring process. And so in the trucking industry, as you know, fuel is very, very expensive. Diesel trucks, tractors are getting anywhere between 6 and 10 miles a gallon. And so the amount of diesel that you have to purchase just for one run it's a lot, and it's expensive. And so any type of expense like that, where you're spending it 15 to 20 times a month, you're having to worry about these different fuel expenses. Every single one of those transactions, you have to be able to lower that cost somehow. And so if you can get to the point where you have a fuel card, then you're going to be able to lower that cost on a cents per gallon perspective, and you're going to lower that cost per gallon by taking advantage of a company that's larger's ability to negotiate with these fuel vendors. And so there's all kinds of truck stops that are out there, and those truck stops want you to fuel at their truck stop. And so the advantages that a company like TAFS has is we're able to negotiate with these folks, whether it's a tire company, whether it's roadside assistance company, or a fuel discount, and all those things. And we're able to aggregate those and say, hey, we have thousands of carriers that use our network. And so it gives us a lot more negotiation power. And so we're able to get discounts that if you are a normal 1, 2, 3 truck company, that you're not able to get because of your buying power. And so we're able to pass those discounts along to carriers to make sure that they are spending less on fuel and spending less on a lot of these other services that they would normally not be able to get discounts on.
That's fantastic. I mean, hey, every dollar counts, especially these days. And sitting here listening to that, while it sounds like it's beneficial to anybody, especially these guys just starting out in the industry, like you said, that may not have access to that or had those, the opportunity to make those connections yet, they're able to tap into that through you guys. That's that's truly a lifeline to really get your business going. Now, if you take a look on something like Google, factoring seems to be one of those things where it's like some people love it and some people hate it. What would you say are some of the common misconceptions that you see about the factoring industry out there?
Yeah, I think it's just there's so much information that's out there about factoring, and some of the negatives of it, some of the positives of it, and just the misinformation that's out there. So there's a lot of things that, when it comes to just different factors like recourse and non-recourse and just different types of things that are out there in the industry about whenever you get recourse on an invoice or some of the different things that are out there about some of the negative connotations of it, where a carrier is like, hey, I was trying to get paid on this invoice and the factoring company decided that they didn't want to buy that invoice. Or there's other situations where a carrier tries to find a new customer and that customer isn't approved by that factoring company. And so just being able to find out different ways that you could have a negative experience with a factoring company, and then just be able to take that head on and answer it and let the carrier know, hey, this is how it works. And most of the misconceptions about factoring companies in general are mainly because somebody doesn't understand how the whole process works. And so if you can really answer the questions on, hey, this is why we provide a credit check system. We provide a credit check system because us buying an invoice 30 days before it's actually going to be paid is a risk to the factoring company.
Sure.
So the factoring company, they want to make sure that you are hauling for brokers and carrier and shippers and whatnot. They want to make sure you're hauling for good ones that are going to pay you on time, And so we have that credit check system that's free, that allows carriers to credit check anybody before they haul for them, so they know ahead of time if that's an invoice that we would purchase. And so factoring companies, they want to make smart purchase decisions just like anybody else that's out there in the industry. And so being able to make sure that we tackle any of these misconceptions head on, with making sure that they understand the process, when recourse happens, when claims happen, how does that work? How do you know if this is a good person to haul for? Factoring companies can also help you prevent fraud. So there's a bunch of things that are in there that if you understand the process and how it works, and how the collection process works and the billing process and all those things, that you'll have a much better grasp on it, and you'll have hardly any issues with a factoring company if you watch your aging, and if you check your credit, and if you do all these type of things that you should be doing normally with your business. And then the other piece of it is, just the advantages you get from doing that versus what your other options are out there. And then the thing that people, and a lot of times talking to folks that don't use factoring, is they don't want to use factoring because they don't want to have to rely on somebody else for money. And so a lot of times they don't really have a choice, because there's no really any other option that's out there. And so you've got to, like with anyone, you've got to evaluate your options that you have available. And if it comes down to it and you need to use factoring, make sure you choose the factoring company that's going to be able to give you straightforward answers on what it's going to cost them, how to navigate the contract, how to choose the program that's right for you, and then also avoid any pitfalls that or horror stories that any of these people are talking about. So you really just need to tackle those things head on. And if you do things the right way, the majority of the time you're not going to have any issues. But at the end of the day, there are multiple parties involved in it, and a factoring company wants to make sure that you're working with good brokers and shippers, and those brokers and shippers pay. And that's usually any type of issue that occurs comes down to that piece of it, or a delay, or whatever it may be. And so choosing the right option that has different types of things of availability. I know one of the things that we try to do at TAFS is we make sure that we're available 365 days a year, because trucking is open 365 days a year. And so a lot of folks out there are not available except for during bankers hours. And so hopefully that's becoming more commonplace across the industry. But just make sure that you have the ability to get funds in any situation, to be able to make sure you don't get yourself into a jam if there's a delay in getting that invoice paid.
Man, fantastic points. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, kind of coming out of the trucking industry and having that insight, not being a traditional bank, which some may lean to, it just really it keeps emphasizing there. You guys know that back end, but also you operate around a trucking industry. Those banker hours when you need funds and finances for your company can be killer. That just doesn't work. If you got a moment, though, I want to take this just a little bit left field with you. So you mentioned here that you kind of came to this industry from a marketing background, and that's just not something we typically think of when we're looking at trucking or just the logistics industry in general. How would you say that like branding and marketing really plays into the trucking industry? How important is it?
Extremely important. With any trucking company, the drivers and the people that are speaking to folks, the sales folks, anybody that's speaking to outside companies and interacting with outside companies and shippers and ports and whatever, those people are your front line, and those are the ways that people see your company. And so if they have an unpleasant experience with one particular representative or a driver or whoever that is, they're going to think negatively about your entire company whenever they have that interaction. And so that's your brand as a trucking company. And so, there's a lot of things that you can do with, whether it's, how a driver is dressed, how a driver is expected to communicate with folks when they get to a location, the professionalism that they display, not only at location, but whenever they take phone calls. Make sure you talk about your trucking company's name. Even simple things as the way you answer your phone. If your company is called ABC Trucking, answer the phone. Hey, this is Alex from ABC Trucking.
Yeah.
And answering it in a very professional manner is something that, at the end of the day, it seems like a very small thing, but it's very valuable to your company. And so
Sure.
there are lots of ways that you can build relationships. And, when you go to a trucking show, or you go to interact with anybody else in the industry, when you're at a truck stop, when you're talking to a broker, when you're trying to negotiate a load or whatever that may be, the more professionally you conduct yourself, the better they're going to think about your brand. And that's going to lead to better business opportunities for you down the road.
Yeah.
People like working with people that are professional and, and down to the point whenever it comes to doing that stuff. So anything from a branding and marketing perspective that you can do to, just simple things, put the logo on your shirt, doing small things, making sure you're groomed nice. I mean, there's all kinds of things that you can possibly do to really help your organization. And even whenever you encounter problems, how do you handle those problems and whatnot? And so, and the other piece of it is more obvious stuff when it comes to marketing. It's, your brand on your truck, your brand on your trailer, being able to make sure that you have different types of things. You'll see trucks all over the road that have their logo on every single trailer. They have their logo on the side of their cab. They've got phone numbers for you to call, because you never know who you're going to drive past on the road. That maybe somebody that's looking for someone to help them ship something or a contract or whatever it may be. And so having many, many ways for someone to find you. We talk about websites. There's so many trucking companies that don't have a website, and they think they don't need one. But with how easy it is to build websites nowadays, and how cheap it is to do so, I think it's just a huge advantage to be able to have somebody that can help you handle that stuff. You can outsource it. You can do it in-house, but just have a way for people to find out more about you, your company, and your logo, and help them have some brand recognition. And then if especially if it's a shipper, and a shipper decides to, they see you on the side of the road, driving by, and they decide they want to go look up your website, call your phone number, answer the phone in a professional manner. I mean, all of those things have a big impact. And so all of it, it's not just simple marketing things. Well, I need to spend money on this or this or this. It's more about your brand and how you want to be seen.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic advice. And I think that really goes no matter if you're kind of an owner operator pushing your business or you're a company driver going for somebody. I mean, at all times, you are behind that brand. You're that personal face of that brand. And even if it's not your own brand, you're a company driver, protecting that brand protects your job and keeps your company growing. For these guys starting out, though, I don't think, a marketing or even that larger strategic plan, something that very many think about right out of the gate. How important do you think that is to, think about that early on? And what are some tips that you would have for them to start off with that?
Yeah, I mean, just having a business plan, first of all, that's vital before you even get started. And that's just understanding costs, variable, fixed, and how you're going to run your business. But some things that you can think about, some small things that you can think about as a trucking company that don't take a full plan. Because I get it. When you're small, you don't need to come up with this gigantic marketing plan, strategic plan, or anything like that in order to do it. But you should know a few key things about your business that can really help you going forward. One of them is, well, all right, what is it that makes me unique? What is it that you're going to provide to someone that they're not going to be able to get from someone else? If you're going to demand the highest rates, why should they pay a higher rate to you? And so having some sort of thing, whether it's going to be service or whether it's going to be, the speed, the professionalism, all the things that you can have, but it's a service industry. And so you've got to be able to set yourself apart in some possible way. And so we call that a unique selling proposition in this industry. Another thing that you can really do is understand who your target customer is. And so if I have a refrigerated trailer, that significantly narrows down the number of shippers that I can work with. Yeah. And so understanding who is your ideal customer and what's the profile of that ideal customer, and, figuring out, some common things that anybody in that ideal customer profile have. And so, a lot of people call it personas, and they try to design personas to fit the different types of things that they're looking for. And so understanding each one of your segments and the way that you're going to market yourself, and then how you're going to talk about your selling points to each one of those segments that are out there. And so those are two just pretty small things that you should look at whenever you're trying to talk about marketing and branding of your company and strategic plan is, hey, this is where we want to be in 10 years. Here's my 5-year goal. Here's my 10-year goal. And then talk about, well, how am I going to get there? What are the things that I have to do in order to do that? And so if you have growth goals in mind, you should look at your company honestly and say, hey, what do we not do well? What do we do really well? And really highlight those things, and then try to improve the inefficiencies.
Yeah. No, I love it, man. I'm sitting here and thinking about that kind of complete picture, and it kind of goes back to pushing that brand by itself by having this, just because I feel like when you've thought about those things, you come off a little more authoritative. You come off a little bit more like you know what you're talking about, and that adds a sense of like trustworthiness. Because as much as we talk about the rates and everything with trucking, on the opposite side of it, we got to remember that these companies are trusting very valuable goods in those as well. And if they want to keep using you as a trustworthy provider in the future, it's always better to be able to push that brand and have them remember you and remember kind of that good experience, a trustworthy experience all the way around. Now, one thing you talked about was a fuel card. And, we really cater to those new guys getting into the industry, looking for that mentorship advice. How can that fuel card and other benefits like that you guys offer really help these companies out that are just getting started? And kind of what's some advice that you might have for a company at that stage as well?
Yeah, so a fuel card, and again, this is another one that a lot of folks get confused about. And so I think explaining what it actually is versus what the other things that are out there. And so you can pay for fuel in a bunch of different ways. You can go cash, and you can bring cash right to the cashier and pay for your fuel that way. You can use a credit card to pay for that fuel, and you can use a fuel card, which is definitely different than a credit card. And so a lot of people get confused between fuel card and credit card. A credit card, typically what's going to happen there is these fuel stops, they don't want to pay all this money to these credit card companies because everybody from a credit card perspective, there's fees that are charged both for not only the user of the card, but there's fees that are charged for the actual merchant that is doing that as well. And so you'll see this all over the roads whenever you're driving in, and you'll see, all right, here's the cash price and here's the credit price on this diesel. And so a lot of carriers see it that it's usually 5 to 7 cents more per gallon for credit price. And all the fuel stop is trying to do when they do that is to offset some of the cost that credit card company is charging. And so a fuel card, if you're with the big 2-3 fuel cards that are out there, you're going to be able to pay cash price with that card. And so when that card is swiped, you're already going to be saving 5 to 7 cents just from that credit price that's out there. And so the fuel cards that are kind of the big guys that are out there, they're always going to be able to allow you to pay cash price. And so that with itself, without any discounts, is an advantage right there.
Sure.
The next phase of that is who is in that fuel card network. And so every single fuel card that's offered out there in the diesel industry is going to have different network merchants that they work with. And so there are hundreds of different truck stops that are out there, but there are 3 really big ones, and that's Love's, Pilot Flying J, and TA Petro. And so those are really big fuel companies that all have 300 plus locations, up to as many as 1,000 locations. And so every one of those companies are in competition with each other. Obviously, they want you to come to their stops. And so every fuel card is going to negotiate with those guys, as well as some of the smaller stops that are out there and the smaller networks. And so one important thing to always look at is what fuel stops are in the network of the fuel card that you're talking to. And so there might be situations where you're going to want to look for a card that has these particular stops in the network, because you know that you travel this lane and it has these stops on that lane a lot. And so knowing what the locations are, what the in-network type of stuff. Also, do you allow out-of-network swipes? Some cards, if you go direct to one of these big vendors, they're not going to let you use that card at one of their competitors. And so they're going to want you to use that card only at their locations. And so maybe it's a situation where you need to carry multiple cards that are out there. And then you get to the next phase of it is there's fees with those cards, understanding all the fees that you're going to be paying, and understanding, what it's going to cost you to do certain things with that card, move money here, move money there. And then the last but not least is, do you want a card that's a line of credit, or do you want one that's a prepaid? Or there's other options out there where you can connect it to your bank account, or you can connect that card to an existing credit card that's out there. And so there are a million different options with how to do that. And so being able to make sure that you find something that fits your business with how you want to pay for fuel. Do you care a lot about your rewards program on your fuel card? And then an additional advantage to being able to use certain different networks, whether it's any of these big stops or any of the small pops. A lot of them have their own rewards programs as well. And so you can get your discount that you're going to get with any of the fuel cards that you negotiate with. And then you can look at additional, ways to generate funds and get free showers, get free maintenance or discounts on, preventative maintenance type things. And so you can get additional things whenever you use the fuel card, free coffee, whatever it may be, things that are just going to help you throughout your journey to lower costs in different areas. And so always sign up for those rewards programs, especially at stops that you're going to quite often, and find a fuel card that fits, what your business needs. Some fuel cards give you bigger discounts than other fuel cards. Some of them, that discount moves up and down based upon if it's a cost plus or a retail minus. Some of it's going to be the same discount every time. Some of it's going to be moving around with fuel prices and things like that. And so just understanding about what you're going to get when it comes to that. Almost every factoring company offers a fuel card. And so that's just an advantage to being able to do that. If you want to get a line of credit, you don't even have to sign up for factoring in order to take advantage of some of the stuff that fuel card is going to be able to get you. But at the end of the day, there are fuel cards that, if you're in high price fuel areas, can be 70, 80, 90 cents off per gallon. It can save you a significant amount of money for every single pump up. And so, I know in our network with our main partner, TA Petro, we were able to see a few months ago where the average amount of dollars that somebody saved was around $72 per transaction. And so that's a significant amount of savings, especially if you add that up throughout the year.
For sure. Yeah, that adds up quick. And, like you mentioned there earlier, it got me thinking, definitely look into the fuel cards and the stops they have, because if you wind up with a really good discount on a stop that is like nowhere you ever go, that's just not going to do anything for you.
Exactly.
Well, so we've talked a lot here, and it sounds like factoring can be extremely beneficial. And I think we may have covered this a little bit, but just to kind of clarify, for someone just starting out in the in the trucking industry, is there anything stopping a new trucking company from working with a factoring company, or do you guys kind of work with companies of all sizes?
Yeah, we work with companies of all sizes. I mean, typically, whenever you're going to go work with a factoring company, they have their own criteria they use to underwrite any new carrier that wants to work with them. Everybody has their own requirements, different types of things, whether it's they do background checks. Some companies do credit checks. Some companies do different things. But you can ask that question to anyone before you decide which factoring company you want to work with. We typically approve a pretty high percentage of companies because we don't really care a whole lot about, credit score or anything like that. We're more concerned about, if you have certain things in your background and make sure that you have, a good business plan, and that you would be somebody that, would be a viable, good trucking company moving forward. You know who your shippers are going to be. That's one of the things you want to ask a factoring company when you work with them is, hey, do you guys have this company approved, or this particular broker approved, or this shipper approved? And so, making sure that this is the right factoring company for you in a multiple different ways, and making sure they go through the contract with you, how you terminate, how you do all these different types of things. And so just make sure you ask as many questions as you possibly can. In the trucking industry in general, and this applies not only to factoring, but it applies across the whole platform of businesses. Anytime you sign anything, whether it's working with a new broker, with a carrier packet, with a dispatcher, with a shipper, whoever it is, make sure you have somebody that you can ask questions to, whether it's a rep from that company, and make sure you ask as many questions as you can so you understand all the clauses of it. Too many times in anything, somebody will sign something and didn't realize that they just waved away a certain right that they had on things. And so you just want to make sure that the ins and outs of it, and understanding that whole thing. But as far as getting approved, we work with all sizes of trucking companies, all the way from a one truck guy all the way to 800, 900, 1,000 trucks, whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And so we have companies of all sizes that work with us. Everybody has their own reason for wanting to work with a factoring company, but we have specialized reps that can handle any type of question you may have, depending on what size you are.
Fantastic. Matt, Rob, you have proven to be a mentor of many hats today. We've covered everything from factoring to business startups to fuel cards to marketing. It's been fantastic. And I think there's a lot of value to take away from this episode today. With everything that we've covered, anything that you can think of that we may have missed on that someone starting out in the industry might take away from?
Not that I can think of. I think, my goal with this is just to be able to make sure that we help people make good business decisions all the way across the board. If we can be a help to you, that's wonderful. If not, we want everybody to have the best luck. We want the industry to be strong. We really love the trucking industry. And so, we want to try to be the best communicators we possibly can. And so if anybody has questions about TAFS or wants to reach out, www.tafs.com, phone number to call us 913-393-6100, and you can talk to any of our sales reps there. And then main thing with our existing clients that are out there, we have our client experience team that's dedicated to really help anybody with any issues that they're having, and just to make the experience that much better. So looking forward to answering any questions that we get, and happy to jump on and have conversations with anybody that's even thinking about getting into factoring, or just general questions about contracts and how trucking works.
Fantastic, man. Really enjoyed this chat today. Thank you so much for taking a little bit out of your workday to share all this with us. I think it's been really valuable. And everybody, be sure to take advantage of that offer. Reach out and talk to them some more. Sounds like they have a lot to offer there. We'll make sure to get the contact info in the description below. Until next time, stay safe out there. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Rob.